Welcome to episode 60 of the Automotive Artistry Podcast. My next guest is Travis Hess. Travis is the owner of Kolor by Tuki. And for all my peers that do custom paint work, you definitely know Travis by his crazy custom paint work. And if you don't know Travis, you're going to know him by his crazy custom paint work. You really can't miss it. But there's a lot to Travis. Travis knows everything from flake and candy to hand lettering and pinstriping. He's been doing it for a long time, and he's really someone that I draw inspiration from, and I know a lot of you do too. So you're really gonna get to know a lot about Travis's life, his family history in the industry, what it takes to do what he does, and a lot more. Anyways, let's get started on this episode because it's a fun one. And Travis, thanks again. Man, your insight, it's awesome. Well, let's get started on episode 60. Travis, man, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, man. Thanks for thinking of having me on and inviting me to be a part of it.
Oh man, it's been a long time coming. I have it in my list of people that I want to ask to be on the show because I've watched your work for such a long time now. And it's
Right.
really some of my favorite work that you do.
Yeah, I appreciate that, man. It really means a lot.
Yeah, it's dude, I always start with people's kind of life story because I like
Mm-hmm.
for people to understand who you are, and especially as people, there's going to be people that listen that they know of your work and ones that don't know of your work. So I think just starting off with what I know there's history in your family in
Right.
the custom world. Where did it all start?
Well, I guess for me, I guess I was kind of born into it. Um, my dad had ran a body shop since I was literally born. He worked two body shops at that time, and then he became pretty much the manager of one when I was geez, 4 or 5, 6 in that area. And, I just kind of grew into it. And, from being a little kid on, I was around, the shops. And then obviously he was in the drag racing and, we had a drag boat back then. And so I just kind of grew up into that whole world. And, yeah, I guess, you know, always loved cars and stuff, but I loved art as well. But I wasn't like I could draw, but I'm not like Chip Foose or anything, obviously. But I could draw as a kid, and I always drew flames. I don't know whatever it was. I would draw them on the dust on the cars, anything. I was just always drawn to flames, so I gravitated towards those. But anyways, as far as you know, the art part,
Mm-hmm.
after school, I was kind of like, I'd sand cars in the shop as a kid. Summertime, do stuff like that, prep cars, but I thought, well, maybe I'll try art school just to, So we went up and toured the Art Institute of Pittsburgh, and I kind of left there going, "Wow, I think I'm done with school. I think I'll just go paint cars. Like
Yeah. Was
big,
it was
yeah,
your expectation different than what you thought it was going to end up being?
yeah. The main thing was like the salary or whatever. This is 1994. I'm kind of old now, but like 30 couple years ago, it sounded to me like if you weren't working for like Hallmark or Nike or something, like you're gonna be pretty much struggling, right?
Uh-huh.
Like if you're not some standout that's going right into a major corporation
Yeah.
as far as doing graphic. I was gonna focus on like graphic arts and different things like that. So, anyways, I was like, well, crap, I could make more than that probably sanding cars. So, and then not have to go to school and this and that.
Yeah.
I was just done. How it is. I was like, I'm not going to college, and so I bailed on that, and then
It's a common story too, and I'll tell you that
yeah,
from podcast guests that are friends of
that's
you and
funny.
I,
Okay,
it's a similar story. So you're not alone on that one, man.
that's funny. Yeah, I figured, what the heck? I'll just whatever start learning more about the paint part,
Yeah.
and we had a big production body shop, and I was prepping cars and doing overalls and learning that, and then obviously doing collision work for years. But it
And
was
the
always in
collision work was where you like that's it. Like we're not talking not much custom paint at this point.
no, like as far as looking at it and this and that, and I never had really done any. So 2 year 94, I was at the body shop, doing collision, and so 1996, I did my first. So 2 years later, my first full custom job, and I can still remember it was like a Harley Softail, like a
Okay.
wide glide, and it was pearl white with candy, wild cherry scallops, and it was all House of Color. And the scallops, it's 1996. Scallops were still pretty hot.
Mm-hmm.
Like the old scallops that
Yeah.
that look off mini trucks, or Volkswagens, that whole look. But anyways, so that's my first that I did myself, and the first time I sprayed candy, and so that was really neat.
What
Um,
was the
yeah,
what was it like doing your first custom? Was it did you feel like at the time like can you put yourself in like
I don't
those
know
shoes?
because it was so long ago, but I mean, the owner accepted it and didn't hate it, so I guess
You
I
did
guess it
good.
worked out. Yeah, especially with the candy cherry. Like,
Yeah.
I know it would have been a silver base back then and I probably taped out the pinstripe outline because I didn't
Hmm.
know how to pinstripe then,
Yeah.
and I would have sprayed it inside the tape. Anyways, yeah, it worked, and even before that, I would back to the flame thing. Like, I had a good friend. Well, he's like, my older brother now, but back then I just kind of knew him. And then one of the guys at work, I had taped out a few sets of flames on their cars, probably, what I mean, in high
Hmm.
school, or right after. So I would tape the flames out, and then they would have somebody else spray them, right?
Hmm.
But no one could really do the flame layout
Yeah.
at that time. So that was kind of neat. That was probably the first times I've ever held a roll of, fine line tape.
Okay.
So that's what would have started it with the taping stuff. But
Yeah.
yeah. So
So what I mean, you mentioned your dad, that was in your family as far as like was that a collision shop that he was managing or was that his own shop?
no, that would have been this local shop that he was just managing, and he had worked at another shop as well where he learned in the evenings, and probably during high school he had learned the trade and the basics,
Hmm.
and then he would. So during that period, he was probably working at the one shop during the day, and then kind of moonlighting at the other one.
Okay.
I mean, because my parents had me really young, so
Hmm.
he was a go getter. Like,
Yeah.
he would work two jobs, so they were, I think, like 16 and 17,
Ooh, man,
and then
yeah, real
so
young, yeah.
17, 18. It's like I was at my mom's graduation, which is funny. Not I was in her belly, but I was there.
Yeah.
So, like, yeah, he was hustling, and
Uh-huh.
that's how he's always been. Just kind of he gets after it, So he'd been working two body shops, but and I don't know if he was managing the one at that time,
Yeah.
but then he became kind of the guy running the whole shop, because the guy that owned it, I don't think he really knew anything about body work. He just
Hmm.
kind of owned it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's how. And then in 1987, he left there and then bought this shop that I grew up in, like, pretty much that I really remember. I was 11 when he would have bought that,
Wow.
and it was a transmission shop that he had converted to a body shop.
I think I was 1 years old, probably. Not even. I was
That's funny.
born December of
Yeah,
'86, so
that's hilarious. Yeah, I just turned 50, which is kind of crazy in
man, yeah, I
March.
don't, dude, I
It's,
don't,
it's
I don't
wild.
see it. You look
Yeah, I
good,
don't
man.
feel 50
Yeah.
mentally at all. Like sometimes my neck and back hurts from being bent over all these years, but like, you know, but other than that, I feel okay.
hmm So he
'Cause,
started that
yeah,
shop in '87, you said?
yeah. So 87, he would have started that. Um, and it was pretty much at that point kind of doing, anything and everything, of course, the old school,
hmm
restorations to collision. Because when you're a new body shop, I'm pretty sure it takes years to get on as far as pro shops. You know how insurance will
Yeah.
they'll pick certain shops that they want to send their customers to.
hmm
So I know he did that, and then of course, it just kept growing, and he uh he just kept going at it, and then to the point where later, of course, we didn't do rust repair or anything like that, or the restorations kind of phased out and still until I started kind of doing more of what I do, and then we would have another shop, and I'd have a guy help me doing more of the old cars because once the collision shop really took off, I mean, there was just no room to leave a car sit.
hmm
So it became where it was like 95% collision work.
So it was like its own running animal, like it was taking
Yeah, it
off and
just
just
kind of took off. It took, obviously years he was doing insurance work, but then I say at the end, meaning past, 25 years or so, it was just nonstop collision.
hmm
And, he just sold the business last year. So at that
Wow.
point, it was 18, 19 guys probably, and
Wow.
30, 35 cars a week. And
hmm
they were just cranking them out.
Yeah. Man, so then where at that earlier time, because where
Hmm.
did the custom start really taking off for you? And or was that like a thing where like did it happen for you and your dad? Where
No, so like I've known, obviously, so my dad grew up in that era, of course, in high school and right after, he can custom paint. Like he taught me the basics on, well, of course, running a paint gun, how to set up. And I would, at that time, we would still use some siphon fed stuff for old DeVilbiss and stuff. And I
yeah.
knew how to use one of those guns. But at the time, HVLP, of course, I mean, when I first started, we'd still have a little bit of lacquer primer in the shop. And then it kind of got phased out, of course, because it's
hmm
just, the EPA or whatever. We
Yeah.
didn't have much of that in West Virginia, but it mainly it was just urethane. 2K was just became the superior primer, of
hmm
course. So it just phased out. But like his first race car was still all lacquer candies and then urethane clear over it. But for me, that's kind of how it started. So as a kid, I rode home in his first race car in the back seat of a 68 Barracuda when he bought it. And he just would drive that thing through the years. This is like late 80s. Well, he bought it in probably mid 80s. And then he made that a race car in the home garage. And so there's a guy local, he's like a local legend, and his name's Nelson Grimes. And that is what really got me to where I would look at the lettering on, he lettered all of Dad's cars. And so I would just always be intrigued by that lettering.
Hmm.
And my dad painted the car, and it's got real killer, like kind of got that 90s, late 80s stripe vibe,
Okay.
like a race boat kind of. So I remember we were coloring those in as a kid. He would trace them, and then we'd all color them, me and him, with markers. And a
hmm
couple of these things popped up a few years ago. We were cleaning out something. I got to find them again, but
Huh.
he did all these variations of different colors, and I don't know how he ended up picking one, but he did, and it's real neat. But that whole deal for me, that's how it kind of started, and then once I started painting more and doing flame layouts, I couldn't pinstripe them. So I would take the paint jobs, let's say it's a Harley, I would
Hmm.
take it to Nelson and have him put the outlines on,
Okay.
and then I would shoot the clear over it, right?
Hmm.
Well, the one thing I really remember is that, and of course back then he would just use one shot, not House of Color urethane. So I cleared it, and I didn't really know the whole deal at that point. And of course, the one shot freaking wrinkled up everywhere,
Oh
just
no.
buckled because I put the clear on too wet on the enamel, right?
Hmm.
So of course I have to take it back to him after I resanded it and like, hey, can you do this again? Blah blah. And he's all like, oh man, yeah, all grouchy about it and
Oh
like,
man.
all mad because I screwed it up. And so then I was like, you know what? I got to learn how to stripe my own flames. And that's kind of how it really kicked it into. I got
Yeah.
some brushes. I think it was Christmas in uh, early 2000. I got really serious about it. I got some Max for Christmas and a
Hmm.
can of one shot. Like as a kid, I had a friend that had a sign shop and they gave me some old brushes. And I remember Dad's first moped. I tried to put the race numbers on the moped, maybe some heartbeat stripe or something with these old brushes they gave me.
Yeah.
And I'm like 15, 16, but I was still skateboarding and playing sports a little bit. Just
Hmm.
I didn't really like I wanted to learn, but I wasn't ready to like dedicate the time, and you know what I
Yeah.
mean.
Oh yeah. Yeah. You grew up
And
like the rest
I
of
would
us. Yeah.
right, I would scribble it on there and think, oh man, that was cool, but then okay, whatever. And those guys also gave me my first book, and I still have it, of course, but it was John Hannacane's book,
Hmm.
and I would study that thing, and John's book's really neat, and I think it was published in '96 or '7, I think, maybe earlier, maybe '93. Anyways, it's mid '90s, but
Hmm.
anyways, he does a lot of obviously layout on how to and this and that. And Nelson, he would, I told him I want to learn the stripe, and it's different. Back then, you had to have a guy like that. There was no YouTube or
Hmm. Yeah.
Instagram, whatever, TikTok, nothing.
For sure.
And you
Yeah.
had to get this old grouchy dude to be willing to show you anything.
Yeah.
And he would always be, oh, I don't know, I just do it. And it's probably, and I get it, it's annoying to try to explain how to do something if you're, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And like he put some doodads on a piece of glass. I gave him this glass and I said, can you just, and he would scribble some things on it. And I still have that as well. And what's left of it, of what he put on there,
That's
30
cool.
years ago.
Yeah.
And I would just paint that piece of glass over and over and over and then scrape it off. And
Hmm.
he was like, if you can paint on glass, you can, because, it's kind of slippery.
Hmm.
So, anyways, that's kind of how that started by necessity. I was just like, I need to learn the stripe. Anyways, I did that and then just kept going with that and just, how it is, it just
Yeah.
snowballs. But
Were those books? Uh, was it on like hand lettering and traditional pinstriping? Like what?
well, the Hanakine book is mainly pinstriping. He might have touched on a little bit. There's not really any that I can remember any lettering how
Okay.
to's in there.
Yeah.
It's mainly striping. And then in the back, there's all these artists. There's a small portfolio of different pinstripers, and it's neat because I would study those. Like there'd be David Hightower, which I could never wrap my head around what he was doing really, and Mitch Kim and gee was Brian Schofield and Todd Hansen, all these names that
Hmm.
now I know them and I look up obviously to them. And at the time, I was just like, wow, these, you know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
didn't see Nelson could pinstripe obviously, and he did a lot of it. And his style, I studied, of course, because it was a different style. and then to see different styles from all over the country, you don't think about that.
Hmm.
Obviously, Kafka's probably in there, and I'd never seen, like, I don't know if they call it Southwest style, or it's what I've kind of always called it, or Feathers always call it, because all the Goldwing guys would get that done,
Hmm.
and it's real flourishy. But anyways, it was just wild. It just blew my mind to see that, because like I said, there wasn't an internet
Yeah,
per
yeah.
se. You'd have to
You
go to
had
a
to work
car
for
show.
it.
Yeah, you go to a car show and see it, or, yeah, obviously a magazine.
Yeah.
And that's just it. Just, how it is. It just, then I really got ate up with it. It's like I'm in the basement breathing mineral spirit fumes for 6 hours straight,
Yeah.
and not coming out of there until I was like, dang it, I gotta match this other side. And I could never, it takes a while. You put one line on and try to match it,
Hmm.
and then one day it just kind of clicks,
Yeah.
and it just never stops. I think you call it. I've been practicing
Hmm.
for 30 some years. I don't think I've
Yeah.
ever, just constant. It's a practice. It doesn't stop.
That's why we rebranded from Refinisher Porn to Automotive Practitioner.
That's funny. Yeah, it makes total sense,
You
right?
know, it's a practice. Every day we are studying it. We are,
Exactly.
we're fine tuning it. We're finding another style. We're finding another
Right.
idea. We're always working on it.
Yeah, it never ends. Of course, you'll see something that sparks your interest, and you
Hmm.
might get inspired by that, and then your style could change through the year. I don't even know if I've ever really had a style of pinstriping per
Huh.
se. That, I don't know. I've always liked the early one color style the most, where it's just super clean, and like,
Hmm.
and I started out just like everyone. I'd pinstripe whatever was sitting still long enough that, it could be a daggone cooler to the refrigerator door to whatever.
Yeah.
You just, anything that was there, you'd put paint on it.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
then I've never considered myself a great pinstriper, like, because I don't go to the rallies and do. I mean, I've done a few bike shows here and there, but I've never gotten super prolific at it to where I mean, I can do it and I'll
Hmm.
do it, and I do the antique stuff, the carriage style, which is what I consider true pinstriping.
Hmm.
Like, that's like the hardest stuff, of course, pulling long lines, but I never did the whole going to dealerships and doing the lines and going to
Oh
bike
yeah.
week, and you know, but I did pinstripe a lot of stuff through the years. But yeah, I can do enough to get by. You
Hmm.
know.
Well, one of the things that I kind of want to go back just a little bit,
Uh huh.
um, is because you said, there was a part of the drag racing scene that was
Hmm.
probably sounded like it was a little earlier from your dad, and then you also
Yes.
mentioned boats too. So like
Right.
I see, and not that I'm like I definitely don't know about the drag racing scene like that, but I have worked on a
Right.
lot of historic drag racing cars, and I
Right.
think of that genre, and I'm like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, there was wild paint jobs, there was
Oh yeah.
hand lettering, there was pinstriping, or I'm sorry,
Right.
I don't know why I wanted to say bass boats, but a
Well, they
lot of
are
the
metal. They do have the metal flake, which is funny.
yeah, a lot of that boating scene was like
Right.
that, especially back then.
Oh yeah.
Is there like a perfect storm right there that kind of brought everything together through you?
Well, the so my dad, he was painting some vans and like choppers, and he could do metal flake, and
Are we talking like
you know,
psychedelic fans, like that
yeah,
genre?
like the '70s vans.
Yeah.
It was probably about to phase out when he got out of school, but I know it was still going on here, late
Hmm.
'70s, early '80s. And they were still doing vans, and then the street machines and race cars with stripes, and his Barracuda, as it, when I was a kid, he had a '69 Cuda, and it had green ghost flames on it. The first true memory for me of that is I'm 5 or 6 probably, and he got me a Trail 50, and I know the thing was just junk because he didn't have any money back then, and like he took it all apart and painted it a blue,
Hmm.
and then the gas tank he put blue ghost flames on it,
Hmm.
and then around like the covers on the sides, they would have like some panel fogging, and so that was like my first custom paint job. I was a little kid and I rode the wheels off this little 50,
Yeah.
and he painted it for me because it probably was so beat up it just needed painted, and he made it real cool,
Do you still
and
have it?
no, I don't. And I back then I know I rode the wheels off that thing, and back then I think we probably traded it to the or gave it away to this local motorcycle shop. It just kind of disappeared because I got an XR80, and then I was done with that little 50. But I do have a 72 Trail 50 now that I got like 20 years ago from a family friend.
Mhm.
And I'm going to do an updated version of that when I get one of these years, when I get time. I'm going to paint it some real blues and do a
Oh, that'll be
throwback.
cool. Yeah.
Do a throwback to my first bike because it's the exact same bike, just not mine. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Little 72 Trail 50.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, that was my first motorcycle, and then, geez, I've been riding a motorcycle ever since. But yeah, so that, and then, like you said, the boats, when I was 12, 13, 11, 12, 13, in that area, he had a coal hydro, and he had a L88, 427 vet engine in it. And it was pretty bad for back then. I mean, it would run 100. And it was all paneled out, the stripes, probably from the coal factory back then.
Hmm.
You could buy them done. And we used to go to High Point, North Carolina, to the boat drags, and that stuff just kind of stuck, the stripes. And like I said, once you get older and you got more, you can see magazines or whatever. And then out west, the flat bottom boats, the California drag boats in Arizona, just always loved that style with the stripes.
Mhm.
And I've just kind of gravitated towards that style per se. And then obviously the race cars, the funny cars from the 70s. And yeah, I just like that era and the style. I like the super trippy stuff too, but
Uh-huh.
like late 60s, 69, 68, in that era. But I like the cleaner look a little more.
Mhm.
And you can see it, as like I said, once you were able to see more of what's going on the West Coast, like I said, without the internet, it was just magazines, and you
Yeah.
see the lowrider cars, like
Mhm.
obviously Danny D is a huge, huge inspiration to the style that I was seemed to be drawn to. And once I learned about Bill Carter, who he was, and how he kind of pioneered that stripe look and the candy fades and all of that, that's what really set me.
Well,
You know what I mean?
you mentioned some names that were it sounded like they were more like local
Right.
popular names. And
Hmm.
the guys you just named, we've got people kind of across the country. And
Exactly.
where were you getting a lot of that inspiration? Like when did you
Well,
start realizing, man, there's other people out here and they've been doing it for a long time?
so for me, the main, the earliest thing. So, geez, Dad built the Cuda in 1991 when it first made it to the track. There's one race car that I'll never forget, and it was kind of his rival there. They were friends, but they were both using the same engine builder. Um, and then Dad started running with him, and it's a guy named John Frill, and he had a 68 Dart, and Circus painted it. And that's the first time I probably ever saw a Circus paint job. So they were a big deal out here. They were literally, the East Coast version of anything going on the West Coast. They were from Jersey,
Mm-hmm.
up near Edison area, and Bert Quimby would have lettered that then. And I just remember the circus on the back, and they did this super neat lettering. Bert would have done it, but before that, it was Mr. J had started it all up there in Jersey in the late '60s, '70s with Bob Curtis, and then Glenn Weisgerber kind of came in there in the middle, the late '70s, and then Bert would have picked up the tail end. And those guys are just East Coast legends, of course. And I didn't know anything about them, obviously, then. I just saw the cars, and I mean, I didn't know who they were. Like I said, other than a magazine, you would have had to read who
It
they
just hit
were.
you. You were just like, this is so cool.
Yeah, I was like, that car, I just always remember it was so pretty. It's candy reds, and it was '90s style with stripes and stuff. And Kenny Youngblood had designed it. And of course, I would have never known who he was
Hmm.
until later. So you're talking late '90s, early 2000s when, the magazine stuff, there was a lot of that. And then the internet was just starting to kind of happen, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you still had all the magazines like Street Rodder and Rod and Custom. And then, of course, the drag race magazine, Carcraft, all that.
Yeah.
And, as a kid, Dad would always have the auto body paint issues of like Hot Rod and Carcraft.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's how you would see those names like Steve Stanford and Bill Carter. And because, they're 3,000 miles away, of course,
Yeah.
So I didn't have a clue who they were, you know.
So
But
your
yeah,
world was just starting to open up really around this time.
yeah. But like I said, so the first thing I ever saw ever as far as lettering.
All right. Let's take a quick break from this episode to talk about one of my favorite products and today's sponsor, Sada. Sada has the RPS vented cup system, and it's one that I've been using for over a decade. I actually prefer the vented cup systems myself. It makes sure that you get all the material usage out of that thing. So when you get to that last part down here, it's not going to starve on you. It's easy to fill, refill. There's plenty. There's, I think, over 100 mixing ratios on here that you can use on the cup itself. And with your Sada gun, you're not going to have to put adapters, so it's giving you a little bit of weight saving there too. With their QCC, right here, you'd be able to actually just twist it on, and that's really it. Another thing that I really love about these cups is that it is flexible. So if you have to spray top, upside down, if you have to paint on the side, you can, do this many ways that you couldn't get from a lot of other cup systems like that. So it's something that gives it a really great usage for all the different directions you might be spraying. So if you want to learn more, visit sadausa.com today.
Would have been Nelson doing Dad's first race car. And later on, out of high school, early 20s, Nelson, he's the only reason I ever wanted to do this. I just wanted to be like him and letter some race cars. Of course, I'm grateful even, because I pretty much started in the vinyl age. I mean, the race car paint was it was phasing out even then, like once the vinyl stuff happened, I mean, it killed a lot of, into the '90s, they were still painting, and even 2000s, some of the funny cars were still done, but very little. Like I've never done any of that corporate stuff at that time.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it was I just wanted pinstripe like Nelson, I just wanted to learn this. And I would be like, hey, Nelson, how do you work this quill? I don't know. He could tell me whether he could or would. He just probably didn't want to.
Yeah.
But and I understand. And the deal was back then, I would learn a lot just from watching.
Mm-hmm.
And he, and ask some questions. And he taught me how to gold leaf. And just once the gold leaf thing, I never looked back.
Wow.
The gold leaf is just a whole nother, like I love doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a challenge, and it's almost like every time you do it, like I can pretty much nail it now almost every time.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes it will kick you right in the dude edge, like it's like you're doing it and then all of a sudden you're like, oh.
And if once you mess up, you got to start over.
yeah, you're wiping it off.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of people might not. I'm just really picky about the gold leaf. Like I try
Hmm.
to get it as nice as possible. Now, when you first start, you're gonna tear
Hmm.
more gold leaf than you're gonna get right. You know,
Yeah.
I had a I heard a guy quote, and it's one of my favorite quotes about gold leaf. He said, "Gold leafs broke more hearts than a high school cheerleading team," and I was like, "Man, that's brilliant."
Yeah.
Because like you're gonna waste a lot of money in
Hmm.
gold when you first start, because you're gonna rip it every time you try to
Yeah.
turn it. Because what we do, you get in a hurry and you try to spin it too soon, and you're gonna bust it all up, you know.
So
So
there's
that
a timing factor that you had to get used to getting to that point.
yeah, and I think for real, it takes years to master gold. Not that I'm a master at it, but I mean it takes years to get to where you can confidently put it on without knowing you're gonna just waste half the book and waste $50 or whatever before you get it on the car or whatever.
Hmm.
But yeah, and that's something I don't think you ever stop trying to perfect, you know.
Well, it's
And
such a important part of like I mean the custom paint jobs that I see from you in particular, it
mhm,
it integrates like everything. Like
thanks. Yeah,
candy, flake, hand lettering, pinstriping. I mean, dude, it's everything. So like that's a huge fundamental in your process.
yeah. So the lettering really kicked off. Obviously, studying Nelson's lettering, and when I first started striping, I had a couple of quills, but I didn't really take the lettering part serious. Like I don't think I thought I needed it to know it at the time, and but I've always loved lettering, and I think it's a common denominator with a lot of sign painters,
Hmm.
at least that I know. Like I was, it was a brief stint because I'm in a small town, but I was into graffiti
Hmm.
for my late high school into like afterwards, and doing graffiti, and I had all the early books. There's two. There's one called Spray Can Art, and then there's one on subway art, and it covers pretty much the whole train movement up in New York City and different, you know, the subway style. And so, anyways, I love letters, and it's funny because when you talk to a lot of sign painters, a lot of them, we all love letters, and they started out with graffiti as well. But so
Huh.
mine was short lived. We were drawing and doing mainly tagging back then, which now
Yeah.
obviously I wouldn't do because you're tagging, you're trying to get up all over town, and
Hmm.
I was in a small town and we were idiots. And back then I got arrested. Like, so one night we go out tagging and my buddy's like, dude, that guy just, I think he got our tag number. And I'm like, what? There's no cell phone. So I'm like, there's no way. Right. So we
Yeah.
just jump in the car and drive off. And I'm like, sure enough, he got it. So,
Oh man.
so
So
like,
somebody called on you guys?
yeah. So I'm at the shop full time. Like I'm 18 then, and I'm at the shop and I'm working one day, and my mom calls and she's like, "What did you do Saturday night?" And I'm like, "What do you mean?" And she's like, "Well, there's two guys here in black suits looking for you." I'm like, "What?" So like the detectives that I was in my mom's old car. It was like this old like 84 Mercedes like that dad bought way back, like it was just an old Mercedes, and we
Hmm.
were just in it, and it was gold, and of course back you're like, I'm sure he's like, it's a gold Mercedes, whatever. And he must have got the tag number, and of course it traced it to my mom's house. So they show up there, and then my mom's like, I guess you're looking for my son. He's in Martinsburg at the body shop, right? So like no joke, those two detectives come rolling in there, and they like handcuff me like right on the spot and take me downtown in the cruiser, right? Like right out of the shop, and I'm like, what the heck? I'm like, this isn't good. And my dad's like, what the heck's going on? Because they handcuffed me,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
and I'm like, oh crap, this is for real now. So yeah, they get me down there, and of course I'm trying to be the tough graffiti guy. I'm not
Yeah.
ratting out. It's a unspoken. You don't rat out your. So anyways, they're like, yeah, there was other guys, and I'm like, I took the heat. They
Yeah.
fingerprint me, the whole deal, misdemeanor,
Mhm.
blah blah blah. The judge orders me to go paint all the buildings,
Yeah.
and my friends, I'm like, they're all like, oh, we're gonna help you, and of course, who's out there on an August summer night because it's so hot? I'm rolling all the buildings by myself.
Oh man.
I'm like, thanks guys, I don't rat you out. You know,
Oh
it's
man.
still a funny story because I'm
Yeah.
still friends
You
with
can
my
laugh
one.
about it now.
Yeah, and I was at the time it was a little scary because I was like, crap, man, they're like fingerprinting me and everything.
You thought you were
So
cooked?
yeah, I was booked. I was a real criminal. They put it in the paper and everything. Right?
Mhm.
It's pretty funny, but yeah. So my graffiti days were kind of short lived because I'm like, man, it's small town and they're gonna find me if I do this again.
Yeah, yeah.
So
100%.
I was like, well,
They already got you.
yep. I was done. Anyways, I still love lettering after that, and then
Mhm.
put the spray cans down and just picked up a paintbrush. And anyways, studying Nelson stuff, and then, geez, I don't think I took it real serious until mid 2000s, where I would like really try to study letter strokes
Mhm.
and different alphabets.
Well,
And
real quick, did any of the
yeah,
graffiti did any of the styling like affect you later on? Like, do you
I
think
don't
that
think
helped
so
you at
because
all?
I didn't even know I was doing this style, but apparently my tag, some guys see it that know a lot more about graffiti than me, and they're like, "Oh, that's Baltimore." I mean, I'm real close to Baltimore and DC, so there's a style. It's not per se wild style, but my tag, if I was to draw it, a lot of those guys would say, "Yeah, that's East Coast or Baltimore or whatever."
Mhm.
I didn't even know; it just kind of came out.
Huh.
Um, but yeah, that the letter style, I don't think so. I see a lot of guys that letter,
Mhm.
and their lettering looks like graffiti to me,
Okay.
and I know it was obviously inspired by that, and you can tell by the way they're pulling the brushstroke,
Hmm.
and it has that kind of graffiti casual flair.
Yeah.
For me, I was more um, into like inspired by obviously Nelson was first,
Mhm.
the lettering, and then it would have been Glenn Weisgerber and those guys I mentioned from Circus, and then I would study those styles, and it looks more like what you'd see on a race car.
Okay.
Because I didn't even really know what sign painting was then. I just knew Nelson lettered race cars, and I didn't realize he was a classically, trained sign painter. His dad owned a sign shop, and he would tell me about doing borders and blocking in letters at like 12 years old, and he was a real sign painter. And I didn't really even know what that was. I just obviously I knew signs were painted, but you know what I mean. I just kind of
Mhm.
thought it all kind of blurred together. You
Yeah.
you painted cars, you lettered trucks,
And that was
and
it.
you did,
Yeah.
but you were called a sign painter. I
Mhm.
was just like, I just thought you were called a letterer or whatever. Maybe
Okay.
I didn't know. I didn't, but yeah. So that opened up a whole nother world as well, doing signs and like I didn't really get too into that. I just wanted to letter race cars. And like I said, at the time, hand lettering was still on a lot of the super stock cars and stuff. But the corporate cars, I don't think those guys got to do too much more after probably the early 2000s
Mhm.
because the vinyl age, probably less, probably more into the 90s. The corporate stuff, they're just going to, when the vinyl wrap came
Mhm.
out, I mean, it was game over for
Yeah.
custom paint on the one, it was faster, and two, it was probably a little lighter maybe
Hmm.
than putting all those coats of paint on a body.
Okay.
So it was cheaper and probably just faster. Um, but I'm grateful that I got to still do a lot of race cars through the years, and guys that still appreciated to paint the car instead of putting a vinyl decal on the whole
Hmm.
thing, you know?
Well, you were saying that you didn't really start taking it seriously until what was it, early 2000?
Yes, as far as learning the pinstripe and really diving into where I was like, I need to learn this. I think even on my Harleys up into the late 90s, I would probably still had Nelson, helping me do the graphic outlines,
Hmm.
and I would just paint them and clear them. Um, but yeah, so then I really dove into it and had to learn it. And it's funny how the 2000s sound like it's weird. The 2000s are weird because they seem like they were yesterday, but they were 25 years ago.
Yeah, yeah,
It's a weird time, I think.
it is.
And I
Yeah.
did a lot of Harleys, a lot, because everyone wanted to be a bike builder. Remember,
Hmm.
all
Yeah.
the TV shows really like made that thing boom. The
Yep.
whole biker build off stuff.
100%, man.
Yeah, and I was painting a lot of Harleys for the local Harley shop. They'd bring 5, 6 sets of sheet metal down at once, and I would paint them, and then they would put them together and sell the bike, and you could buy a custom Harley like right off the showroom.
Wow.
Like it'd already be painted, and maybe they'd put wheels on it, and that was a big thing back then. And then after the recession, '08 and all, it kind of died locally here. And I still did a lot of bikes through the years, but not like then. I mean, it
Hmm.
was a lot.
Yeah.
Then
Yeah.
then the mail order thing kind of happened now with Instagram, and
Hmm.
I never really pushed that as well. But I know a lot of guys, man, they ship sheet metal everywhere.
Yeah.
Like I would do more of it. I've just never really done it. I guess the thing. It's funny about nowadays. Instagram made the world really small.
Hmm.
So it's like, and that was something that kind of was a mind blur. Like painting something and then seeing, wow, there's a dude in Japan doing this,
Yeah.
and it's just wild.
Yeah. Shout out
And,
to
and
Massa. Center roots.
right, yeah, exactly. All those guys, and that's a whole nother topic of discussion. Those guys, they take it to another level.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting to see like you were saying, you see like the where vinyl took things, and
Hmm.
then you start seeing a resurgence in that, and like now I feel like it's really I mean you're more into it. I get to see it from from the
Hmm.
surface. But it really feels like there's a lot more of that coming back. I think people are kind of tired of the machine
Oh yeah.
you know
Well, there's
copy and print
yeah,
aspect.
right. With the lettering, you mean?
Mhm.
Oh yeah, there's a massive revival that started, and I was really happy to um, be painting then and be a part of that. The main catalyst for that, I think, minus the internet, Instagram, and so forth,
Mhm.
was there's a documentary. Geez, I don't know if it's 10, 15 years ago now, at least 10. It has to be well over that. But anyways, it was called Sign Painters, and geez, I forget the guys that did it, but I went to the opening of this documentary. It was in DC, and they did the world premiere there at one of the art museums or something,
Mhm.
and that showed sign painters from all over the country, maybe a few all over the world actually. And I think it was just kind of this like boom, like all of a sudden everyone's like, man, I want to letter
Mhm.
and learn to sign paint, and because you didn't hear about it unless you were like me. I grew up around, like I said, Nelson, and seeing a guy use a quill. But say you didn't see that, and then this documentary came out and a book came out, and then Instagram happened, and
Yeah.
then next thing you know, people are like, "Hey, I want my barber shop lettered like it was in 1940. I don't want to put a sticker on it."
Yeah.
And it's just like anything. I think this whole, and it's awesome because that revival. I don't know if it helped with the other revivals because, let's say, just craft coffee per se, or being a, a beer, distiller, or
Yeah.
making, there's this whole revival of like handmade leather goods. And like,
Hmm.
it's just so cool that it went back to almost where people were tired of all this machine stuff,
Hmm.
and that people wanted something made by hand. And it all went hand in hand, literally, to where you could have the old school barber shop, and now he has hand painted signs in there,
Yeah.
and you walk in there and it's like a trip back in time,
Hmm.
and it's great.
Yeah.
And it's made people appreciate a hand painted sign, or their storefront painted, or
Yeah.
and I think the first guys that really dove into it were the tattooers,
Yeah.
wanting their tattoo shop to look like an old street shop from the 30s or 40s, whatever.
Yeah.
And they were some of the first to really dive into wanting the hand lettered, at least the guys I know that own shops. And they want that look. They don't
Well,
want a sticker anymore.
they're art forms that agree with each other. I mean,
Exactly.
a lot of tattoo artists also airbrush.
Exactly. And hand paint
Yeah.
lettering. And that was always a thing with a lot of tattooers in the slow seasons. Say, for instance, they would even move down where you're at,
Hmm.
and they would letter all the carnivals, or like the state fairs. And they would, when tattooing was slow up here because it's cold,
Hmm.
then they could travel with a paintbrush and a paint box, right? And then letter during the slow season, and then come back home and tattoo, when it's busy.
Yeah.
And I think that's one reason I think the tattooers always appreciated the lettering, because a lot of them did it.
Yeah. Yeah. I actually have a
So it's great.
very close friend of mine, Josh Everett, and
Okay.
he owns a company called Everett Nautical, and he does fautique.
Right.
But he comes from the original, a lot of the East Coast tattoo scene. Um,
Okay.
and yeah, he's combined the hand lettering. Uses vinyl graphics also to help with the custom paint work on the production side.
Right.
So he kind of brings all of that stuff together. But again, he was a person who was heavy in the tattoo scene,
Right.
and then integrated into all of this custom paint work, and now he just travels the country and
Wow.
other parts of the world to do his art form.
Yeah, it's definitely opened up a whole nother door for both. Like I said, a lot of tattoo artists can pinstripe as well. I mean, what I don't think you need a more steady hand than anything than to do tattoos. So if you can pull a straight line on a person's skin,
Mm-hmm.
I'm sure a brush is a no brainer,
Yeah.
or a catwalk
Mm-hmm.
for someone that does that. Because I've always said, man, it's just paint. I can freaking wipe it off if I don't like it.
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, you can't wipe a tattoo line off. Like you're
Uh-huh.
you're gonna have to fix that line or put something there.
Yeah.
And yeah. So I mean, I love tattooing. I've been really into that in the early tattooing forever, and I like the whole history of the whole sign painter slash tattooer guy. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's a neat thing. And the whole revival, like I said, it's neat.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
Neat
You
to
are
see.
a part of that though, man. Like, I
Thanks.
when I
Well,
think of your work, man, like, okay, when did you get to the point that you were doing these crazy candy, like,
oh,
I don't even
jeez.
know, what do you call the style that you do? I,
Well, I mean, I so for me, like we talked about earlier, I guess for me, when I try to paint a car, it's kind of like you took a drag boat, a low rider, and a race car, and threw them in a blender. I guess like I would just pull from all those things that I like, and
Hmm.
just so like the car doesn't know what it is.
Yeah.
You're just putting tape on an object.
Hmm.
So you could take that same layout and put it on a flat bottom boat, or a 63 Impala, like it, or a 70 Barracuda, like it doesn't know.
Yeah.
You're just following lines
Mm-hmm.
that are already there.
Yeah.
So that's just how I looked at it. So the first time I ever got to do something kind of wild was my dad's. So 2004 was the first time I probably metal flaked a car and I caught it like the top of the roof. I tried to emulate a drag boat, and I don't think I really succeeded, but it kind of has that, because I didn't know how to lay that stuff out. And I was just like, I'm going to try it. And then the whole sides is fish scales
Mm-hmm.
with flames. And we called it King Cuda. And Nelson did the lettering, of course, because I wasn't really lettering. And then I would help him outline the flames because I was already pinstriping a few years by then. But that car is the one that really, where I was like, man, I'm going to try to do something pretty wild. Because before that, all we did was a lot of flames on Dad's second car.
Mm-hmm.
And then Dad paneled the back out and put some fish scales on it. And I was like, man, that's cool. Like, I don't know, other than maybe his helmet when I was a kid, he did. So that's how that started for us, because they're called, they're a Barracuda, the car.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So obviously the fish scales, it just kind of,
Went hand
and
in
then it
hand.
kind of stuck.
Yeah.
So we kind of ran with the scale thing on his cars. It kind of became, I don't know, maybe his, not a trademark, but you know what I mean. It was
Mm-hmm.
his all his cars from that time on ended up with some scale work, and we both love flames.
Mm-hmm.
And I've always been in the flames and trying to lay out really nice, pretty flames. So I would just pretty much from then on, his cars would have that and flames on them. And so that '04, and then we did the King Cuda 2, I think in like '08, and that one was where I was really trying to break up the panels a little more
Mm-hmm.
and do something a little more mod and more trying to mimic, maybe a lowrider style. And even some of the Harleys back then, I remember try my hand at doing some lowrider lines
Mm-hmm.
and stuff. And man, I didn't know what I was doing. And like I'd only seen some photos, of course, at that point in magazines, and if you didn't have the magazine right there, you couldn't just open your phone up. Like now we all have. I mean, dude, I have albums of just freaking paint. One might say paint inspiration. One might say lettering. One might say, you know, chrome paint.
Yeah.
And I'll use those for inspiration. Of course, you have a roller deck now on your phone
Mm-hmm.
that you can flip through and go, oh yeah, I like that color there.
You can talk directly to the guy who does the style or the
Yeah,
guy or
now I can
girl, you
message
know?
a guy. Yeah, you can literally message the dude on Instagram and be like, hey dude, I really like this color here. Or like, I mean, I have people write me all the time, and I try to, the best I can,
Mm-hmm.
explain things. And it's hard
Yep.
because without, like, it's funny. One thing that my friend and our friend, my dad and I, our engine builder is, he's super well known guy. His name's Jason Line. He raced pro stock, and he's one of those engine guys that's a genius, right? And like, he would always say, we did these paint classes, and he'd be like, how the heck do you teach someone to do paint like you do? And I kind of was like, well, I mean, how do you build an engine like you do? Like,
Yeah.
like anyone can learn the mechanics of something,
Uh-huh.
but you have to know how to put it together.
Yeah.
Like, you can show anyone how to take a piece of tape and make a straight line or squiggly line or
Mm-hmm.
tape out flames, but the fundamentals you can learn, just like building an engine. Anyone can learn to put a small block Chevy together,
Yeah.
right? But can you make that engine spend 10 grand and make 800 horsepower, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's when you come into like, oh, you better know what you're doing. So it's the same thing, I think, with anything.
Mm-hmm.
You just got to have, I don't know, it's cliche, but I mean, I guess it's just got to be in you, like,
Mm-hmm.
to see. That's one of the things people are like, man, how the heck do you put all those colors together? And I don't know, I just love color. And I think I don't even have a color wheel. I don't really care. It's
Mm-hmm.
like if I think it looks like, some people are like, well, blue or like red and purple don't go together. Well, why not?
Yeah, yeah.
Like on a color wheel, they're like opposites. Like they don't. Well, I don't know. Tell that to the paint job. I
Well,
think red
do
and purple
flames and
look good.
scales goes together? Like it's.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like, I mean, obviously you have to know. Like, I don't like certain colors together. Like, I see some things, and I'm like, oh, I would have never used those two colors together. Like, you want colors to clash, but they also need to complement each other too. If that makes sense,
Mm-hmm.
it's more like not clash. It's more you want a contrast,
Yeah.
and that's how I've always looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't really follow all the color wheel rules, I guess. I don't know.
No, I mean the thing is like you said earlier. You said this is something you've put into practice, and when you put anything into practice, you notice details, you notice patterns, you notice things that the ordinary person, because they haven't put it into practice, they can't see
Right.
it. It's harder to see it.
I guess I don't. I guess it's just like anything. You know, the more time you. I've always said lettering for sure. Pinstriping, you can get by with doing pinstriping to where you know it might look okay. There's no. I guess it'd be more like there's no wrong or right pinstriping.
Mm-hmm.
There's good and bad pinstriping, but there is wrong or correct lettering.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone knows what a B looks like because we all just know what lettering looks like from reading anything your whole life. So if you got a B that is shaped wrong, or an A, or any letter,
Mm-hmm.
everyone knows that just looks wrong.
Yeah.
And when you see lettering done wrong, you're like, man, that looks off. So lettering to me is way harder than pinstriping.
Wow.
I've always said that lettering is 100% more difficult in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't mean drawing a pattern and painting inside the lines,
Yeah.
which that is sign painting. We all use a pattern for big letters and all. When I think of lettering that's more difficult, it's taking a ruler and just scratching the lettering on with the stabilo
Mm-hmm.
and then just painting it, which would be called freestyle or casual. And that's when you can spot it and be like, man, that's just off,
Huh. Okay. Yeah.
because one letter might be angled wrong
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to the letter beside it, or and that's the stuff that you don't even know why it's wrong. If you don't know lettering, you just know it looks wrong because your eye knows through, school, everything,
Mm-hmm.
even looking at print forever,
Yeah.
that the computer has put that lettering on a certain angle. And then you look at hand lettering, you're like, man, it just looks off. And you might not even know why, but it just does.
Well, that's like proportions.
It's same thing, yeah.
It's
Proportions.
even if it looks similar to the thing you're trying to do. If there's a proportion off somewhere, it just
Right,
you're sitting there going, what is going on? Oh, there it is, and there's that one
right.
angle that's just off.
Yeah, it's 100% true with lettering. Because, like I said, pinstriping is a lot more forgiving. It might not be the best looking pinstriping, but it still could get the job done.
Hmm.
You know, it
Yeah.
might not aesthetically look like, you know, great,
Hmm.
but it got the job done. Now, say you paint a sign and your letters are kind of wonky,
Hmm.
people are gonna be like, "Man, that sign looks bad."
Yeah. Yeah,
You
especially on
know,
the side of a car.
right? Totally. So, anyways, that's kind of my theory on that. And it
Hmm.
it obviously at first it takes a lot, and I still have to paint a letter, and I'll be like, "Oh, that thing's off," and I'll wipe it off. I'll be like, I missed the angle on that.
Yeah.
It's like I said, this is called practice,
Hmm.
and it never stops.
Yeah. Yeah. And so when you really when do you feel like you got really comfortable with these wild paint jobs?
Well, I don't. I think during the mid 2000s on the cars, like I've followed a lot of renderings too. Like years ago, you would get a car drawn and then bring it to a painter.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a lot of professional guys that draw the renderings, and I still have a few. So you would just copy what was on the paper, and that was still a fun challenge. But to draw up your own
Mm-hmm.
is like, you know, and then it became a style, I guess. And it's like a double-edged sword because I've done a lot, and then the guys would be like, "Well, I want it to look like your dad's race car," and I'd be like, "Well, that's cool, but I don't want people to feel like, oh, that's all you know how to paint." And like, but then at the same time, I guess they're coming to me because that's what they want it to look
Yeah.
like a super stock car on the street.
Mm-hmm.
And I would be like, man, okay. They're like, I want flames, I want this, and I'd be like, so I don't know if it became, like I said, I didn't want people to be like, man, they're all cookie cutter. But if you put them all beside each other, they're all different.
I
And
mean,
that's what became
drastically.
difficult for me
Yeah.
is painting the same car like 20 different times. It's just like the lowrider guys, I guess. I don't know how Danny and them did it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they've painted more Impalas than anyone. How many times can you, him and Bugs and all those guys?
Yeah.
It's still a 60, whether it's a 62 Impala to a 67 or whatever, it's still the same lines that you have to follow. So what you do is you start just reversing this, reversing that, and obviously you're going to have your own style. So they're all going to be similar.
Mm-hmm.
Even if you look at Danny D's, they all were similar patterns, but they were all different
Yeah.
and they all flowed.
Mm-hmm.
But it isn't like you took it to Danny D and you expected him to put like somebody else's paint. You wanted his style on the
Mm-hmm.
car.
Yeah.
So you weren't going to take it to him and show him a picture of Joe Blow's car and be like, do this. And he's going to be like, well, you came to me. Well, why don't I do what I do?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. It's weird. Like, cause I started to worry that I was going to be like, I don't even know the word, like pigeonholed into this. But then I started to think, man, that's pretty neat that guys are coming from all over. Like, hey, I want it to look like one of your dad's race cars. And I was like, that's kind of cool
Yeah.
because I love that style, but I don't want, you know, people to just think that's all I know how to do. But at the same time, if you took a 68 Barracuda and put like a 90s mini truck paint job on it, I mean, it's just going to look silly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd do it, but it would be weird,
Yeah.
you know?
Well, and the thing is you can bring so many styles to the table, or maybe I shouldn't say styles. Like, uh, there's people that can do some great candy and stuff like that, but maybe they
Right,
can't pinstripe, or
right,
maybe they can't gold leaf or silver leaf.
right,
So then, or even the hand lettering. The fact that
right.
you have the capacity to bring that into these paint jobs, that gives
Uh-huh.
you the ability to make that change to it.
Well, yeah, so for me, like I said, I tried to learn everything that I could just do on my own to where, like I said, Nelson would always let her dad's cars. And then when we redid, see, he wrecked the King Cuda 2 and it tore the front end off of it. And at that time, I was like, man, I don't think I can match this. There's no way. And he's like, we'll just paint it over. So the Candy Cuda became that car, but it's really the King Cuda 2 paint job is underneath of that. And it's completely buried. Like if you were to sand it down, you would eventually hit it.
Uh-huh.
And so that Candy Cuda was the first time I did the whole car. I did the lettering, the gold leaf,
Hmm.
the paint, everything. Up until then, my mentor, I consider Nelson my mentor, he did the lettering. I'd paint it, he'd come by and gold leaf it and letter it, right? So I just went for it. I think that was, I don't remember, '06 or '08. Oh, '08. I don't remember.
Yeah.
Something in that area. I can't remember, but maybe a little later. Maybe it was 10, 12, but it's right in that era there. And then after that, I was like, man, I think I can letter these things. And I just kind of really dug into it there.
Yeah.
Um, but anyways, yeah. So for me, I just wanted to try to learn to do it all. Like I can even so the airbrush thing. Like I never really dove into it as far as like the murals. Like I can do the basics and like I've airbrushed stuff like skulls and things, and I can do enough to get by. But I never really pursued it. I guess maybe because I just like the graphic part of it more, right?
Mhm.
And I just focused more on learning how to letter and stuff like that instead of put. But at some time, and I still do, I'll still dig into the airbrush. And like I said, I can do the basics. But if someone was like, hey, I want a mural of a lady
Yeah.
riding a dragon on my deck lid, I mean, I might approach it at this point. And if I hate it, I just sand it off and be like, man, I wasn't happy with it. But I could probably work my way through it.
Mhm.
But yeah, like do the lowrider, airbrush guys, like, oh, yeah, there's no way. And Steven Gibson, of course,
Yep. Yep.
no, there's no
Great
way.
example.
That's a whole nother world. But
Corey
like I
St.
said,
Clair is another one. I
all
mean,
those guys, yes,
it's
and it's another world. And I can do enough to get by, like I
yeah.
said, but I know my limits. You know what I mean?
Well, that's a really good point because like there's only so much bandwidth that you'll be able to handle.
Yeah, like I said, if you put the time in, but that's a whole nother skill set as well.
Yeah.
A lot of it is learning the techniques to do it quick.
Mhm.
And I've picked up on a lot of the, there nowadays with doing the print, you can print it and cut it out and get your stencils. I never knew any of that. And
Yeah.
that definitely speeds it up. But you still gotta, it's just like that fundamental thing.
Mhm.
I mean, you gotta, you know what you're doing, man. Like for Steven and those guys, that's just a talent that very few people have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And my friend Darren Wenzel is another one. And that dude, him and like Mike Lavallee, he's gone now, of
Yeah.
course. Those guys were just on another level.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, dude, I want to switch it up a little bit,
Hmm.
and because you and I talked a few weeks ago, and we talked about some of the shows that actually you and I met at
Yeah.
the Detroit Autorama. I can't remember what year it was. Maybe,
Hmm.
man, I don't know. I feel like it was maybe 18 or something like that.
Yeah, it was pre-COVID, right? Because
I
I don't
think
think I've been
so.
back. Right.
And you've been going to a lot of shows like that for a little bit, right?
Well, yeah, I hadn't gone for years, but I first went to Detroit, geez, 20 years now. So in '06, and I went a few years in a row through like the mid late 2000s, and then so Sam Radoff ran those back then, and he was a legendary painter. He did all the killer, more psychedelic choppers and like really killer layered patterns over patterns. And his style, when you see it, you once you knew it was his, you'd be like, Sam painted that. But anyways, part of that, I wanted to meet him, and just he ran a real neat show,
Mhm.
so it was fun to be a part of that. And Pete Finland,
Yeah.
Hot Dog,
Yep.
he was painting for Jesse then at West Coast Choppers, and he would always come, and it was fun. I got to meet him that year and hang out with him, and
Yeah, we
and
had him
just
on the podcast last year.
no kidding.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
true.
great guy.
He's a great dude, and always been super nice. And so it was fun to see guys. Like I said, again, it was only magazines,
Mhm.
and you'd be like, or back then, I guess that biker build off stuff was mid 2000s, right? And Pete was on some of them, and Monster Garage, remember?
Yeah.
So it was cool to hang out with him and other guys from across the country that you'd only see in magazines or meet on there was forums back then, remember that?
Yeah, yep.
Like so a big one here, it was called Stripe Called, and Custom Culture Gallery was I think Stripe Called might have been the name of the forum, but that was fun. And then anyways, you would meet guys that were on that. But yeah, I did those shows, and like the Lone Star Roundup was always fun. And I used to do Syracuse every year, and that
See,
was fun.
the interesting thing too, like when we talk about like how you used to have to go through a magazine or anything, and then now it's like social media. The
Uh-huh.
shows, I think, for our peers is still holding strong. Like
Oh yeah,
it's still like showing face and being able to be with your. It's like the only place where we all come together is a
right,
Detroit Autorama, is a Grand
right,
National, is SEMA.
right.
Like and and
Yeah.
and even that, the one I really want to talk to you about is Grand National, because
Hmm.
you were able to be a part of Paint or Die,
Yeah.
and kind of bringing it back to Danny D.
Right.
Man, how was Grand National at the first times you got to go to that?
Well, so for me, I still regret not going early on. Like, I have a friend named, the Harpoon. He's a great painter out west, and he was friends with Larry Watson. And I never got to meet him. I always wanted to meet Watson, and he was always at Roadster Show. And I was like a day late and a dollar short. Like the next year or so, I did make it. He had already passed away,
Oh man, yeah.
So I'd always remember seeing, obviously, Watson would make an appearance there or have a booth, and I never got to meet him. But I was like, man, I got to get out there. And then another thing was there was a TV show back in the 2000s called, I think it was called Living the Low Life. You remember they covered the lowrider scene out west,
Hmm.
and for me, I just wanted to see the lifestyle cars in person.
Mhm.
And when I finally got to see the room with those, I was just like, no way these guys are driving these things. You know what I mean?
Man.
Like, it just blew my mind. I knew they were going to be insane, but to see a Danny D job in person
Mhm.
for the first time is much different than seeing it on the internet or, you know, stuff like that. So, but then, geez, what was the first one? What was it, 17, 8? I don't even
I
know.
can't remember.
16, maybe Danny D's first. I
I
forget.
feel like it was later. I feel like it
Was it
was. I think.
18?
Yeah, maybe.
I don't remember. Man, I
I'm
feel
sure
like,
some of our friends listening to this, they
right.
write a comment somewhere in there and let us know,
Yeah,
because
I
that's.
think it was 16 for the first one, but I could be wrong. But it's
Mhm.
somewhere in that ballpark because it was definitely before COVID. Because I remember Painter Die 5, so that would have been 5 years.
Yeah.
And I haven't been there since 19.
Mhm.
So, yeah, Painter Die 5, that might have been the last one. I forget. But the first one, all of them were amazing.
Connie here from the Working Class Women and a proud sponsor of today's episode. Back in 2019, we teamed up with Sada USA to create the Pro Series Ladies Paint Suit, the first paint suit designed specifically for women. Every feature was built to solve the problems we've dealt with in the traditional suits, starting off with the princess cut that gives you a tailored fit, no more baggy and oversized feel. We all know the anxiety that it brings when you're leaning over a panel. The built-in knee pads definitely add some comfort. The traditional zippers on each side that give you easy pocket access or even better airflow when you need it. The pinstripes that go down the suit are actually carbon fiber lines that help with the static control. These suits are also washable. And of course, you can find our original Girls Behind the Gun logo that's on the back, along with the Goddess Behind the Gun design that's on the shoulder. And these aren't just gear. These are representing of progress. They've helped break down the barriers and make a real difference even in my own career. So grab yours today at aworkingclass.bigcartel.com or through your local SADA distributor. Are you outside the United States? Your best option is our online store. And ladies, just a reminder, you have a place in this industry too.
I mean, obviously, because for one, I'm from the East Coast.
Yeah.
There's a small scene of lowriders, maybe down in Virginia, maybe a few near DC, but I mean, to be in California in January, of course, it's freezing cold up here on the Northeast. And so one, there's that. I'm out there. I got some really good friends in California. So to see them, I'm out there with palm trees, and there's lowriders and Volkswagens and choppers, and so there's that. But then to get the invite to Danny's first painter die, it still blows my mind.
Yeah, man.
Because other than maybe a little bit on the internet, I'd never met Danny in person. I don't think, unless we met at SEMA a year or two before. I don't remember, but for him to even just to be on the radar of like, oh, I got to send that guy an invite, still blows me away. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
And I'll never forget that, or take that for granted or anything like that, because I got invited every year after, but the first one was really special, and I think all those guys would agree, because it might have been 20 couple guys, I forget, but it was just like, felt smaller. Obviously, how most events do, they grow, which is great.
Yeah.
More people get involved and sponsors, but the first one was just super special. It was at his shop, and the first one or two were at his shop, and then it got too big, and I forget, he had it at like a lodge of some sort, like a, Lions Club or something like that. But anyways, it was just amazing. And he would always do the bring your A game, and you're like super nervous. I'm like, what the heck am I even gonna paint? Like, to go out there and hand a skateboard and hand one in, and so it was just neat to push yourself and be a part of that.
Yeah.
Just is super neat. I'll never forget it.
Was that like the most concentrated form of being surrounded by people like you that you've been at?
Well, other than like SEMA, I've been to SEMA for, geez, early 2000s. Been going to SEMA probably, and but I didn't really. I might have known a few of the guys at that point. Some of the painters, like I said, but to be around that many lowrider painters is like never. I'd never had that happen before.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, Danny, Bugs, and Mercado, and I think Loki, and guys I didn't know.
Yeah.
But then it's like, I don't know if accepted's a word, but I guess it is. Like, I'm just this, dude from the East Coast. Like, I don't know much about lowriders other than the paint, and like, I love the look at them. But to be there and rub elbows and pinstripe with them and hang out, and it was just surreal, kind of, the first time. So yeah, like, that was amazing. And then later on, a year or two later, Danny got me into the I stayed, and then Monday and Tuesday, we went to Exalta and did the lowrider hood thing.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, Danny got me into that and was like, you should stay. So I knew when I was flying out that I was able, because I didn't use Exalta. I've always just had House of Color and Sherwin-Williams. But like, just the fact again that, like, he got me in to go paint at that, and I got to do a hood, and then it traveled with the Exalta booth.
Yeah.
And to do that, to be honest, before that, even, I think how it happened, I went into the SEMA Exalta paint booth, and Bugs and Danny and them were in there painting skateboards, and then they were like, yo, you should just grab one then, man. And I was like, what?
Yeah.
So I like whipped out a skateboard in a few hours. I just jumped in and grabbed it and just painted one, and the next day got there and gold leaf some on it and pinstriped it, and then it traveled with so that was like the first time getting to paint with them. And
that must have been 16, I think.
I think you're probably right. It's right in that era.
Because I at the time I was working with Exalta on projects too, and that's the same year I met all those guys. And
so
I remember.
Do you remember the paint booth outside?
Yes, yeah, man.
Gotcha.
I have pictures that like I'm looking at them. I didn't realize at the time You know,
Right.
kind of like you were describing something similar. And I'm
Right.
like, I look back at these old pictures that I have, and I'm like, man, I'm so glad I took those pictures, that I
Right.
have that memory right there.
Yeah. So that's probably how I really met those guys, and they like saw like I could paint that style, I guess you'd say, on a because I think so. I've known of Bugs and stuff from the MySpace days, which is dating us and funny, right?
Yeah, I was about to laugh a little bit, but
And
no,
he
that's
would
awesome,
comment
dude.
once. Yeah, he would comment once in a while on my cars, and then like I'd never met Bugs. I love that guy. He's
Hmm.
always been super kind, and he's the nicest dude, and I
Yep.
love hanging out. So like when I went to that, I think Bugs was the one like, yo, you should just grab a deck, man. And I was like, okay. And my dad was there, and he just hung out, and he helped me tape, and I rocked this thing out in a couple hours because they had already got a good start.
Hmm.
And then I got it done, and you know, I think that's when I first really got to hang out and paint with them.
Yeah.
And then later on, the Danny D did a painter. And after that one, it was a year or so later. I think they did the Exalta thing,
Hmm.
so that was always funny to be around. So Bugs would come up. I remember painting that hood, and it was just, how Bugs is, and he'd be like, "Yo, you get down for a white boy," and I was always like, "Man, that was like a huge compliment,
Yeah.
coming from Bugs, right?"
Hmm.
And that would make me laugh
Yep.
because you know, uh, me and like Brian Ferreri and we were probably the only non-Hispanic dudes in there trying to paint, like keep up with these guys,
Yeah.
right?
Yep.
It was so good. It was really funny. And Bugs would always say that.
Yeah.
And I'll never, that was just a funny memory and a great memory.
Well, that to me, the little that I got to know Danny,
Mm-hmm.
and I've gotten to know Bugs over the years a little bit. You know, we've had him on the podcast as well,
Right.
uh, and him and Steph. We actually
Yeah,
did a.
Steph's great too. She was there, of course. I think, Danny mentored her a whole lot.
Yep.
She's so nice and
Yep.
really good. It's just fun.
But
She was at the painter dies.
yeah, and what I get from them, you know, and from what your stories tell me, kind of like
Hmm.
confirm my thoughts with them, is like the only thing they care about is, can you paint?
Yeah,
You're
that's it.
you know you're then you're a part of us. Like, that's it.
Yeah,
It's
and it was like that's huge, man. Like to me, to be accepted into that fold per se, like you know, they knew, like what I mean. Just you could get down on a board or paint something, and they were just stoked for you, and
mhm.
just dude, grab some paint, man. And
Yep.
it was just neat to be into that whole, be a part of it. Um, like you said, they didn't care, dude. They're just like, grab some tape, man.
Yeah, and I talked to so many people that went to Paint or Die. You know, I never was lucky enough to be a part of that. Uh,
Hmm.
but I've talked to so many of you guys, and everyone, you know, is like, yeah, I was nervous too, you know. And then it's like, after you go, you're just like, oh, these are my people, you know.
Yeah, yeah. And that's the thing about Danny. Like, he could have had a big head and been a total jerk, and it would have been, you would have almost expected that, right?
Mm-hmm.
But he was the 100%
Opposite.
opposite of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
Like 100%
Mm-hmm.
opposite. And he was one of the best to ever do it. But he was super humble and just super nice. Bugs too.
Mm-hmm.
But like sometimes it's the whole people say, well, you don't want to meet your heroes. I've had a few instances where that is true, but most of the time it's not.
Yeah. Yeah.
But especially with Danny and Bugs and those guys, just super nice dudes, man. Like you said, they're just like, yo, just paint. They don't care.
Yep.
You're whatever, man. Like they just want to hang out and paint.
Yeah, and I got to, you know, get that feeling more when, because we would throw our refinisher porn party at SEMA every year,
Hmm.
and I remember inviting them, and man, he showed up with a bunch of people, and like I was just like, man, I didn't think, you know, I was just, He didn't look at it like that. He was like, at least I feel like he felt that I showed enough respect to that side of the industry
Mhm.
that I don't know. They came out and we made some cool memories, and
Totally.
I got pictures that I'm like, man, this is so cool. I'm so
Yeah,
glad.
yeah, just to have that. Yeah, it's great, man. Like there's I think early on it was a lot more like that, like cuz now like I said you can watch a YouTube video and learn a lot.
Hmm.
And way back of course guys weren't really willing to tell you a whole lot, you know.
Yeah,
Not like I mean whatever they call it gatekeeping or
yeah,
whatever. I
yeah,
never
yeah,
But it's true. Like a lot of the older dudes, whether they just didn't want to tell you or they just didn't feel like it
yep.
or really know how to explain it, maybe
Hmm.
it's probably
Yeah,
a little bit of all of that.
there was a little. I feel like there was a combination of feast or famine mentality,
Right,
and then a little bit of the gatekeeping, and yeah, that formula just doesn't work. That's any lulls in the industry. A lot of them came from that.
right,
Because then what? You have a bunch of. I'm trying to find a good way of saying this, but you got a bunch of old timers who are not going to be here anymore,
right,
and then because you didn't want to show anybody anything of what you do, well, that's
right.
how you kill an industry.
Yeah, I think that was part of the whole on the collision side of it for my dad. I mean, I could see it as well the past years, 10 years, whatever. And dad, some of it, there's a few 30-year guys there at the shop, but it's like there's not really kids coming by to replace these guys, you know?
Hmm.
And I think that's a huge bummer. A
Yep.
lot of kids don't want to get dirty now and all dusty and
Hmm.
paint cars. They just want to work on a computer or work inside or so I'm not sure the state of the future of the collision industry. I don't know.
I think a lot
I'm
of it too is like is for our generations to pick up and be like and throw that hand out and be
right,
like, hey, there's something really cool here that you can do too.
right. And I've done a few of the classes, with Brian and them at Paint Huffer and
Hmm.
a couple others that I did the first brush masters and stuff like that. And at first I was like, man, I don't know. I was a little, maybe it's because I felt like the same thing. Like I've been, it's hard to, you feel like, well, I can't share these guys. It's hard to explain all this and that. And you're nervous. But once you get there and see everyone's super pumped and enthusiastic about learning,
Yeah, yeah.
and you start to be like, man, that's cool. These dudes actually really are into this.
Hmm.
So it kind of gets you kind of excited to actually say, okay, I'll try to show them some stuff that I
Yeah,
think can help.
yeah.
And it was neat to see people interested in learning the trade.
Hmm.
And like I said, and I've said it a lot when I go to those, so it's the same thing. Like you need to learn how to paint first. And that's kind of going back to the collision side of it, right? Like you need to learn the fundamentals
Yeah.
because I mean, a Yeti cup is like freaking tiny, right? Like
Hmm.
you go to paint a car door, you're going to be in trouble if you
Yep.
don't know how to paint. Like that cup, you could pretty much spray bomb clear that cup.
Yep.
But when it comes time to paint something big, if you don't know how to operate a paint gun,
Hmm.
you shouldn't be custom painting because there's going to come a time when someone's going to bring you something bigger than a skate deck that lays flat
Hmm.
and you're going to be in trouble.
Well,
So
it's
that's
like
my theory.
I think of like fish stick,
Right.
right? I think of that car and I go, if you don't know what you're doing, or if you don't have the full idea, the
Right.
stakes are high.
Oh, yeah. Like, you know how it is just with layering all the colors and
Yeah.
you got, and then, for me, I'm normally rushed because the car's got to. In a perfect world, you should put the flake in first session of clear, and if you had weeks, let it cure out. So, anyways, there's that. You don't want to put too much material on at once, and
Yep.
then just knowing your recoat windows. And I've never been a stickler on the whole. A lot of guys are like, "Oh, dude, how can you get all those colors on and clear it within the 1 or 2 day window?" Well, you can't. It's impossible. It's going to take a week to color this car.
Yeah, yeah.
And you don't. I've never really stressed that or worried about that. You can re-wet the car with a coat of, for House of Color, they have the 00 transnebuli, and that's the inner coat,
Mm-hmm.
like the flake carrier.
Yep.
So you can re-wet the surface, and it's good, and you're ready to clear.
Mm-hmm.
But I've never had an issue with that. A lot of people now, when it comes to primer or a base coat, I'd be a little more worried.
Mm-hmm.
I would never let primer sit sanded longer than the time it says, because I think the sand scratches can close back up.
They do, yeah.
Right.
I
It's
know a number.
microscopic.
I know a number
Right.
of people who that's bit them.
That will bite you, and that's a mechanical adhesion
Yeah.
problem,
Mm-hmm.
and that I never let go. I will say I scuff a car or sand a car, and I can't get on the base. Well, I'll just run a scuff pad over the whole car
Mm-hmm.
again, and just make sure that the scratches are open back up,
Yeah.
because that does scare me.
Yeah. I've told this story before on the podcast, I think, and there was a young kid that I met last year that really enjoyed lowrider graphics.
Hmm.
And he's learning, he's in the process, he's got it, it's in him. He's absolutely going to do great things if he continues to push himself.
Right, that's
But
good.
I went over this conversation with him, and I'm like,
Hmm.
you can be approached, eventually, if your portfolio sticks, you can be approached
Right.
by some big names in the industry who want your work.
Hmm.
And you can make a beautiful paint job, like
Right.
beautiful, stunning work of art. If it peels off tomorrow, it didn't mean
Right.
anything.
Right. Yeah, that's 100% accurate. And that's the scary side of custom painting, because there's a lot of variables. And that, for me, I've always tried to rule out as many variables as humanly possible,
Hmm.
because, like I said, if something fails, hopefully you can figure that out
Yeah.
and know what happened. Like, thank God I've never had,
Hmm.
clear just blow off a car,
Yeah.
or whatever, like or a candy crack all up underneath a month later. I
Yeah.
mean, because that's tragic. I mean, it's like start overville then,
Hmm. And
and that's scary stuff.
and I think and actually part of the point, because there's a lot of missing context on my conversation with him, was to
Hmm.
emphasize, like, yeah, you're also learning about, you know uh sure, the custom paint, but he was also learning about prepping and doing all that
Right,
stuff. And a lot of people get discouraged, like, oh man, I don't want to sand. It's like, that is
right.
part of the job. That is,
Oh,
you
yeah, that's
you have to
right.
make sure that that's right. It's probably the most important thing.
I mean, gee whiz, I mean, I can't even fathom the amounts of pieces of 600 I've gone through.
Oh
And
man.
like, yeah, I think you spend more time sanding, I think, at times than you do painting a job,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, which is horrible. I hate it. And then you get done and you're like, oh, it's cleared. Oh, I got to sand this again. And then buff the whole car.
Yep.
If say you got to nub it, whatever.
Hmm.
So you sand again. And that's just like, oh my gosh, is this ever going to end? It's like all we are is professional sanders,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Pretty much. Uh, Dude, I have one major subject that I really want to
Mhm.
talk to you about,
Okay.
and because you and I talked on the phone a couple of weeks ago, and there is a special 68 CUDA that you and I talked about.
Okay.
Uh, and the names that are behind it, man, I'd love for you to tell uh, the listeners, like, tell them about this project.
So right now, so the 68 in the shop, that's the one you're talking about, correct?
Yeah, that's got a couple very special names and very
Right.
particular paint job
So
on it.
yeah, a friend of ours, and he's a uh, Mopar collector, a guy named Steve Atwell. He's in Detroit, and he went to the McCacken shows in Chicago, and he's pretty much where, if you're going to debut a crazy barn find in the muscle car world, that's the place to do it, because there's lots of eyes on it. It's just kind of a neat thing to do, and they have a barn find section. So we're at the show, and Steve's like, "Hey, go up to the barn finds and see if you can figure out what I brought." Well, right away, that's I walk up there, me and Dad, and I'm like, "Well, this is obviously what Steve brought, because I know he digs out some insane stuff, right?" So, anyways, it's a '68 factory lightweight Cuda, um, that had been out west, I guess, 40, 50 years. That they ran it up until the early '70s, I think. But anyways, it was a '68 Cuda, and it's candy red, and it's got gold leaf heartbeat, I think's the name of it. And then oh shoot, the guy's name I forget. I've seen the name through the years, but I didn't know who he was or where he's from. But his last name's Weeby, but his first name, I'm drawing a blank. But anyways, I'm looking at the car, it's all gold leafed on, and I'm looking at the script, and I'm like, man, that script is legit. I'm like, it's either Tom Kelly or Walt Prey or one of those guys. Or maybe Nat Quick. I'm looking at it. So I walk around the corner, and there's a crest on the side quarter panel, and I'm like, holy crap! It says, paint by Carter, lettering Walt, and it's got the hand with the brush, and I'm like, no way, Carter and Walt painted this. So I'm like stoked to just see a race car that survived with their paint on it, right?
Man.
And it's all lacquer cracked. Like, this thing is sat in and out of weather, and it's so busted up, but it's covered in dirt, so you can't really see it,
Yeah.
how bad it is.
Hmm.
So anyways, I'm like freaking out, that they did it. And, obviously two guys I'm super inspired by. And so I go to Steve, and I'm like, dude, you got two super, famous painters, legendary painters, whatever, that did that car. And he's like, no way, he didn't know. So anyways, I told him, I kind of told him, well, look up Bill and blah, blah, blah. And,
Hmm.
of course he goes home and does that. And he writes me like, holy crap, he painted Perdue. I'm like, yeah, dude, like, this is serious, you know, it's a big deal. And he's just blown away. So the whole top is shot, and the sides are so cracked. But I said, man, we got to, I just said, I wasn't even a part of the equation at that point. I said,
Yeah.
you got to try to save this thing. And he's like, really? And he goes, man, I was going to strip it. And I'm like, man, you got to try to save it. So I kind of drilled that into him. I left Dad, and I flew back home, and I think he had messaged me or called me and goes, hey, I want to bring you that car. You're the only guy that can save it, if and this and that. And I want you. He said, it's my car, so you got to let me do what I want. And I said, well, you're right. I'm not going to. He goes, I want to strip the tops if you can save the sides, because the tops are shot. There's not much. The paint has peeled. And he said, I want you to do your thing on the top,
Hmm.
and then I want you to sign it, and then I'll have your stuff on the top, and these two. And I'm like, no way, at first I was like, no, let's just paint it back. And he's like, nope, it's my car. I want you to do your thing, and then I'll have something you did. And then I was
Yeah.
just like, man, that's crazy that you even want me to add something to something that they had painted.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's where we're at, and I just was kind of blown away by that. So the next time, the goal is to try to lock the sides down. I'm gonna scuff it down and
Hmm.
try to lock it down with clear what's left. But
Yeah.
it's still iffy. Because you can't tape to it at this point to even mask off the top.
Yeah, yeah. Man,
Because whatever you tape to is going to pull off the paint. I mean, it is all but gone as far as the adhesion part.
mhm.
Because the lacquer has let go of it. Looks almost like they used the old school like feather fill on this thing, and it's just gone. It's checked so bad. But anyways, I'm gonna give it a shot. And I said, Steve, hopefully we can lock this down, and if we can, we can do it. If not, the worst case scenario is I try, we have to start over, which I
Mhm.
don't, I'm hoping not to, but if we do, I'm going to try to save that crest somehow on the side,
Yeah.
no matter what. So that's where we're at on it. And it's, that the car itself's heavy because, I mean, they're out there. There's a bunch that are still left,
Mhm.
but they only made 75 of these from Chrysler with the factory super stock, lightweight Hemi program.
Yeah.
But there's probably half left of 75, maybe.
Well, dude, that
And,
I was gonna say that. So like this, when you were telling me this story, I'm like, I'm telling you, I was like, I mean, you heard me on the phone. I'm still like
yeah,
giddy over this whole thing because it's for the listener. Like, if you
mhm,
don't know what a lightweight car is, like lightweight cars were factory race cars
right,
that appeared just like all an original a car. You would have a
right,
60s, I don't know, Grand Prix or something like that. And the whole
right,
front end was aluminum
right.
from the factory. So these
Yep,
cars were,
fiberglass or aluminum.
yeah,
Yep,
yep. So the car itself was already a hard to come by vehicle. So it's
right.
already a special car. Then you
Mhm.
have, and if I have this right, Walt Prey, the painter of Gypsy Rose,
Yes,
huge name in the lowrider scene. That is an
right.
epic car that and I know the
Well,
our custom
right.
painter friends, they know this already.
Oh yeah.
And
And
then you
Walt
have,
painted tons of killer cars, and but the Gypsy Rose, I guess, could be arguably the most famous lowrider ever,
ever,
right?
yeah.
Maybe. I mean, obviously the Cheech and Chong one.
And then Wild Bill Carter, like one of the OGs in custom paint.
Definitely.
I mean, all in one place.
And the real neat part about it is he's funny because he'll drive his cars. He wants to drive this thing on the street and get it titled. And I'm like, dude, that's wild, you know? And it's kind of scary because I'm like, dude, he's up near Detroit. And I'm like, oh, the traffic and just, but that's how he is. He's got some killer stuff and they're just an old race car,
Hmm.
and he wants people to see it and like enjoy it. So the goal is we're going to try to get it done and take it to Detroit this year.
Wow.
So I got my work cut out. I got a lot to do to it yet, but I hope that we can do that and then let people see this car again. Because like I said, I don't know if he probably knew about the car. He knows about all these old race cars, but I don't know that anyone knew this thing's been sitting or how he found it. I forget the story.
Man. Well, dude, I'm so stoked to see. I'm if it makes it to Detroit next year, I'm excited to see it, man. I
Yeah, that'd
think
be
this
neat.
is going to be a big one for especially people in the custom paint scene, whether you're in it or you're an enthusiast. Like,
Because it's funny, the car doesn't. I mean, it's just candy red, and
yeah.
it's not like patterns on it and all, but
Hmm.
the lettering's killer. And like, um, you know, the funny thing about it, I don't think it's the primer either.
Yeah.
I think it's the base coat. I started looking the car over. Of course, I've had it there for months now, but I looked at it even there, but it was dirty.
Hmm.
But anyways, I could see this pink shining through,
Hmm.
and I was like, man, I don't know pink primer back then. I can't imagine. So I'm looking at it and I'm like, dude, that's the base coat, pink with a Murano pearl, because it's a super fine candy. It's not metal flake or anything.
Hmm.
And I think it's pink with a Murano pearl over the pink. And then he put the red over. And I was like, I mean, that'd be a classic Bill Carter move too, to put the candy over a pink, like,
Yeah.
because most people would never think of that, and that's a classic Bill Carter thing to do.
Mm-hmm.
Because most back then you might be like, well, we'll just put it over gold or silver like it would have been, the factory pack silver.
Yeah.
To me, the pink looks like, I'll know more once I can start sanding on it, but I think it's the base because
Man.
I see a little bit of shimmer to it,
Mm-hmm.
and
Wow.
I think it's got pearl over top of it. And then he would have put the candy on it, and
Man.
it would have just made it a really killer red. It is. It's like a cherry
Mm-hmm.
kind of brandywine-ish color.
Okay.
And then Walt did the gold leaf and all the lettering
Wow.
and pinstriping, and man, it's just super cool.
That is cool, man. I'm glad you're a part of it. Like
Thanks,
I
me too.
said, I'm really excited to see it. So, dude, I have one last question for you.
Okay.
And I try to bring this question up throughout all the episodes. And where do you think creativity comes from?
Well, my opinion is, I would say, from God.
Okay. Yeah.
Like, I believe God gives everyone different gifts per
Mhm.
se and talents, and I think it's up to us to know what those are and how to use them, um, for God's glory and for, to make a living. And like, if I was to fight it, like for me, painting is like all I know.
Mhm.
Like I just grew up in it, like I said, and I've never filled out an application. I just picked up a sander one day, and there's my life, and and I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
And I'm just a painter, and but I'm happy being a painter, a car painter.
Mhm.
So I think it's just, I think God gives each of us different gifts and talents, and like I said, I think in time they will show themselves, and then it's kind of up to us to do, ultimately what God's will is with that. And that's all I try to do, man. I just love painting cars and painting whatever. And like I said, it's all I know. So until I can't do it physically or mentally, whatever,
Mhm.
it's just what I'm gonna do.
That's awesome, man. Well, dude,
Yeah,
it really means a lot that you took the time to do this podcast, and I'm really
yeah.
excited to let people hear about you. Where can people
Yeah.
find you? What's the best way for social media and everything?
Well, so nowadays, obviously, it's, Instagram and Facebook. I used to have a website, but, it kind of fizzled out. But, you know, so my Instagram is at Tuki Paints It. And then, of course, Facebook. I don't have like a business one. It's just my name,
Mhm.
Travis Hess. And, yeah, Instagram, I normally frequent that more because it's just a little quicker. And, if people message me, I always try to reply. Even on a comment, I try to comment back because I know it's kind of frustrating. A lot of people, you'll leave a comment
Yep.
hoping that someone will reply, and they never do.
Yep.
I've been there.
Yep.
So I try to take time. If someone's going to leave me a nice comment, I try to just at least show my appreciation for that,
Mhm.
that
Yep.
they're even checking out my paint, and it means a lot.
Yep. Is there a website or anything like that?
No, like I said, I did have a real website.
Mhm.
Maybe later I'll do that again. I have a big cartel,
Okay.
and I have a new T-shirt order about to come in. So I will be putting some shirts back up just,
Cool.
for fun and to sell those on the big cartel. So
Yeah.
on my Instagram,
Okay.
I do have the link to the big cartel.
Yeah. And you've this past year you pretty much went full time into the business.
Yep.
What's the new name of the business?
So the business is, the proper, the whatever you call it, federal name is the Kolor by Tuki Ltd company. So it's an LLC.
Mhm.
So Kolor by Tuki is the short of it. And that's what's on all the shirts and cards and stickers.
Yeah.
So Color with a K
Cool.
by Tuki.
Awesome.
And yeah, that's it.
Cool, man. Well, again, I've always been inspired by the stuff that you do. I've been watching for years. I was happy to meet you,
Yeah,
and I'm sure we'll see each other soon again, man.
yeah, I really appreciate it, man. Thanks for asking me to be a part of the podcast. It means a lot.
Oh man, you're the perfect person for it, and I know a lot of people are gonna get some great insight to your life and custom paint, man. So thanks.
Right on. Awesome.
Thanks again for listening to the Automotive Artistry Podcast. Hopefully you got something out of this conversation, whether it was inspiration, motivation, or just hearing how somebody else approaches the work. If this episode inspired you, one way you can help us is by following, sharing, and leaving a review. It helps our podcast tremendously. Another way you can help support the podcast is by heading over to our online store, aworkingclass.bigcartel.com. You can find us on Instagram at Automotive Artistry Podcast, Automotive Practitioner, and The Working Class Women. We appreciate all of you listening. Let's get on to the next episode.